There it is. Okay. So for our announcements, I know that some churches have now gone all remote again for a period of time because of Omicron. We have not chosen to do that yet. We still have a mask mandate here. We still ask, if you've had any symptoms, please stay home. And to be good with masks over mouth and nose, because we're really trying to protect each other from this. The spacing seems to be going well, so that is always good to see too. But that's where we're standing right now. But again, like it has been for almost 2 years now, we're taking it week by week, if not day by day. So just watch your email blast, and we'll blast out. If we have to change for some reason, we will blast out something just about that. So it'll be very obvious that it's coming from that. We are still on Zoom, and we are also doing Facebook Live. So if for some reason you test positive or have to quarantine because of a contact or something, it's pretty easy now to see us online. Even if Zoom scares you a little bit, Facebook Live is pretty easy to deal with. So the other interesting news that we have this week is that we have a homeschool who is going to rent from us every Monday, and they begin this Monday. So we're excited to have that group in here. They had, I think, been in Portland or something, and we're looking for a more local space and fell in love with, I think they liked our space, but they really liked the kitchen. So they're going to do cooking classes with the children too. So we're looking forward to that, to having the voices of 25 children here on Monday. But we're just trying to use this building, continue to use this building in new and interesting ways, partly for income, because it sits empty so much of the week, but also to be part of the community too. We have a Girl Scout group here that meets during the week too, that we don't charge them. I figured that is a good thing to just let them be. But that has been a wonderful thing too. And I've been stopped a few places or talked to people and they go, oh yeah, you're the church where my girls go to Girl Scouts now. So that's a good thing to hear. So that's what we're about as we keep opening the doors to people, even while we keep being really careful. And just to let you know, everyone who comes here and rents or uses the building is under the same restrictions that we are, where you have to be wearing a mask. The only time staff doesn't wear masks when we're in our offices. Other than that, I mean, you guys have seen me do that. Somebody comes, I put a mask on and come out of my office. So that's what we'll be doing. If there is an issue, my cell phone probably works better in Iowa than it does at my house for some reason. But you can always text or call me if it's an emergency. That's part of being a minister, is you are never not out of contact, unless I go far up enough in Maine where there is no service, right? Are there any other announcements for us? I know that we have coming up a choir concert with Immigrant Girls. We're going to see how that's going and if that's still happening. That was in early December, but now with Omicron, it may not be, but I'm pointing to Lynn over there, but we'll keep talking about that and let folks know what's happening with that also. It may be actually wise to just reschedule that. That may be the best thing. So, but we have hired Thomas Swan to do our Beyond Worship group. So as soon as I'm meeting with him on Zoom, as soon as he's out of quarantine, he'll be here and working with us on Sundays, and we'll start more Beyond Worship programming. So we're excited about that. All right, let's gather together in this new year, in this Sunday of Epiphany, and let us worship together. Wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you come with and wherever you are going, you are seen, you are heard, you are welcome, and you have always belonged. For thousands of years, Indigenous people have walked on this land on their own land. The relationship with the land is at the center of their lives. We acknowledge these lands upon which we worship as the ancestral, cultural, traditional, and unceded lands of the Wabanaki Confederacy of the Endakina people. We commit ourselves to the work of dismantling the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. And let's join our voices together and stand, if you are able, please, to sing our first hymn, The First Snow Well. Let's pray. Gracious God, we come before you singing our songs of Christmas, singing our songs of life and your love. Be with us as we sing them in all these places together that we are. because all, no matter where we are or here, we are together in your presence. May we know that on this day and every day. All this we ask in your name. Amen. If you're standing, you may be seated. I think it was either last year or the year before, when I always write the Sunday, what Sunday it is on the top of the bulletin. I believe it was Hal who came to me and said, Christine, you've got ordinary time there. And I said, well, yeah. And he said, but we're still in those Sundays after Epiphany or Sundays after Pentecost or something. He said, can we use that instead of ordinary time? And I said, sure, Hal. And so it went to that. It went to that. But we do in our tradition where we stand, they converted. I just read that this week. They converted from Sundays after Epiphany or Sundays after Pentecost to just calling it ordinary time. And I don't know why. Maybe it was because they didn't want to be seen as too, and this is funny, this is the way my grandmother used to say it, Catholic. So she always seemed to whisper that word. I don't understand. She'd say cancer out loud, but she wouldn't say Catholic out loud. So bless her heart, as we say, right? And I don't know, whether we didn't want to seem too Catholic or Episcopalian, too high church, or something, especially, in the UCC. But ordinary time is a good thing. It is good to have celebrations. We were just remarking today that we're going to feel a little naked when we take down all of the decorations here, and we might do it slowly just so we can, get used to it. But we have ordinary time, and it's good time. Even in the midst of holidays and our celebrations that remind us of what we need to remember, right? There's still ordinary time. When nobody's around and the dishes just have to get done and, schlep the laundry downstairs, you do what you have to do. That doesn't make it uninteresting time. That doesn't make it bad time or boring time or time to escape from. It's ordinary time. And as we start a new year, as we started a new year and have started with Advent, we started a new church year, we will have plenty of ordinary time. But our choice is what we do with it. Not every moment has to be a party, though there's some of us who would really appreciate that. But how do we shape and let our ordinary time be shaped by the one who loves us? So this poem, Ordinary Time, challenges us and asks us what our ordinary time is filled with and what we'd like it filled with, because it will even empty. That is a filling of that time. So if you would ground yourself with your feet on whatever ground they are on and with your seat in your seat and find your breathing. Which are the magic moments in ordinary time? All of them, for those who can see. Mine consists of understanding that the magic isn't something I make, but something that shines through the things I make and do and say, the way a brooch or scrap of fabric shines from the detritus to catch Leonard's eye and to be of use for costumes. When I am fearless and thorough enough to give it room, all the room there is in ordinary time, which embraces all the people and events and hopes that choke the street tonight, and still leaves room for everyone and everything and every other place the undescribed and the indescribable, more various and cacophonous than voice can tell or mind conceive, and for the sky's vast depths, from which they're all a speck of light. Loving God, even as we have begun to unplug and take down the lights that we put up during this season of Christmastide, God, remind us that your light in and through all of us, in and through the whole world, does not depend on us putting up and plugging in. That you shine through us, and that light is visible anytime and anywhere. God, let us be your people of light. All this we ask in your name. Amen.
Leading us on till the morning is bright.
Thank you, choir. You know what, kids, you guys are all here, aren't you? Whoops. Tom's going to get me with my mask on. I'm just going to have you sit here, okay? How does that sound? Does that sound good? It is good to see all you. Are you ready to go back to school tomorrow? No, yeah, no, yeah. Both, a little bit of both, right? Sort of, kind of. Oh. It's always good to see the friends, isn't it? That's good. Then the work starts, right? Yeah, I know. But that's good. Well, I'm glad you guys are all here today. Well, it is Epiphany. Did you know that that's the word for with the three wise ones show up? Did you know? That's a big word. And we use that word not just on a Sunday or a day. It's actually January 6th. So we've got a few days left till there, but we always celebrate it beforehand unless it's on that Sunday. But Epiphany also means that you have like a sudden understanding of something. Like you have this epiphany where you didn't get something before and you suddenly get it now. Has anybody ever had that in there? When did it come to you? Do you remember what your epiphany was? Math. I'll bet a few of us have had epiphanies in math. You're right. So that's what Nora said, is that she just wasn't getting something in math. Her teacher showed her one thing and all of a sudden, boom, you got it, right? That's an epiphany. Have somebody else had that too? Sometimes when we learn to read, it's like that, like you're struggling and struggling and struggling. And all of a sudden one day you go, oh, I know what that word that is. Yeah, that's no problem. I know I did that when I was learned to knit like 15 years ago. Like, oh, I was struggling and struggling. And then one day I picked it up and it's just like my hands knew what to do. And it was wonderful. And I really haven't stopped since then. So, yeah. The other interesting thing about Epiphany, because I know we talked about the wise men, and I brought some wise men up there. I brought the guys that are all riding the same camel, right? With then bringing their own star. I always love that one, that if you don't have a star, you can always bring your own, right? And then I have these stone ones that are from Africa. Look at how tall and regal those guys look. Yeah. And then these other wooden ones up here. And the only reason you know that you've got the wise men is, see how they've got two little slits on top there? That's like a crown. Isn't that cool? One of my minimalist ones. My dad made this one too. So, but the Epiphany originally was, sometimes it's used to also celebrate the birth of Christ. There's, that they didn't start doing Epiphany until like over 300 years, almost 400 years after Jesus was crucified. So it took a while for them to go, oh, we want to do something like this, right? And they did it to say that that's when the Gentiles, I'm remembering that the Gentiles knew about Jesus. Do you know what a Gentile is? No, it's somebody who's not Jewish. That's it. Okay, so you'll hear this in the Bible every once in a while. They'll talk about in the New Testament, the Jews and the Gentiles. That just means everybody, right? But because you know that the person probably writing the story was a Jew, so that they wanted to include everybody who wasn't a Jew, because most people would think, oh, you're just talking to your people, you're not talking to anybody else. And they say that the wise men, they weren't Jewish because they came from way far away, right? That's the story. And that they were powerful guys. They knew the king. Like they could go to the king and say, hey, king, where's the baby that's going to be born, the king? And the king, the story goes, the king goes, nobody's pregnant in my house, which means that's a problem because the king thought someone was going to try to kill him and take his throne. You guys read stories like that, don't you? Yeah, there's lots of stories about that where everybody's vying for power, right? Everybody wants power. And one of the way they do it is to kill whoever's in power, which hopefully in our country, we don't do that. That's not our goal here, right? But so these guys were pretty powerful. They could walk into the palace and talk to the king, get an audience with the king. But they didn't know all the stories in the background. That's why they went to the king first, right? They didn't know that this was supposed to be a story about a little baby, or something, or that this was a story that the Jewish people had. Do you sometimes know a story that other people don't know? Sometimes we call those secrets, right? And those are things that other people aren't supposed to know, right? Like my social security number is secret. Y'all don't know that, right? Now you could all know my phone number, can't you? I think it's on your bulletin, right? That's not secret, right? but my social security number is, right? But so that's the difference. Some things are supposed to be known, like phone numbers can be known, but other things can't. This was a story that it wasn't supposed to be a secret, but sometimes it's hard to know a story, right? How do you know unless somebody tells you? Well, the wise men get told by a star, right? So think about that. What other good stories do you know that other people might need to know? Stories about love, stories about kindness. You know what are the most interesting stories to tell people? Stories about themselves that they didn't realize. Do you maybe have a friend or somebody that you know who's good at something and they don't realize that they're good at that? And that they need to hear the story that you're going to tell them. Say, you know what? I really love that you do this. It's either it helps me do something or I get inspired, right? And I want to do something else because you've done it. That's a wonderful story to tell other people. And that's a story of love because you're saying, I see you and I see all the good. That's kind of what the wise men needed. They needed to hear a new story that they had not heard before. They thought that star was going to be a story about a king. And well, come to find out, it was about this little bitty baby. But really, it was about that God is present to everybody, not just to the Jewish people, not just to the Gentiles, but to everybody. And that's a story that you guys can share in so many ways. All right, let's pray. Loving God, for all the stories that you give us, for all the stories that we see around us, we are thankful. Help us to see the stories of love and to share them with other people. All this we ask in your name. Amen. Little kids can go, big kids, you can stay or go. It's up to you, okay?
Like a child born to pray and to show us the way, like a child here to say Jesus comes. Like a child we receive all that love can conceive, like a child we believe Jesus comes.
Our scripture reading this morning first starts with a poem, The Journey of the Magi by T.S. Eliot. I consider it a scripture that wasn't written yet when our Holy Scriptures got written, but a story that should come to us. And then we'll read our story from Matthew. A cold coming we had of it, just the worst time of the year for a journey, and such a long journey. The ways deep and the weather sharp, the very dead of winter. And the camels galled, sore-footed, refractory, lying down in the melting snow. There were times we regretted the summer palaces on slopes, the terraces, the silken girls bringing sherbet. Then the camelmen cursing and grumbling and running away and wanting their liquor and women and the night fires going out and the lack of shelters and the cities hostile and the towns unfriendly and the villages dirty and charging high prices. A hard time we had of it. At the end, we preferred to travel all night, sleeping in snatches with the voices singing in our ears, saying that this was all folly. Then at dawn, we came down to a temperate valley, wet, below the snow line, smelling of vegetation, with a running stream and a water mill beating the darkness, and 3 trees on the low sky. And an old white horse galloped away in the meadow. Then we came to a tavern with vine leaves over the lintel, 6 hands at an open door dicing for pieces of silver, and the feet kicking the empty wineskins. But there was no information. So we continued, and arriving at evening, not a moment too soon, finding the place, it was, you might say, satisfactory. All this was a long time ago. I remember. And I would do it again, but set down this, this. Were we led all that way for birth or death? There was a birth. Certainly we had evidence and no doubt. I had seen birth and death, but thought they were different. This birth was hard and bitter agony for us, like death, our death. We returned to our places, these kingdoms, but no longer at ease here in the old dispensation with an alien people clutching their gods. I should be glad of another death. And then from Matthew. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise ones from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is this child who's been born King of the Jews? We've observed his star at its rising, and we've come to pay homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. And they told him, "Well, it says in Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet, and you, house of bread, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise ones and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you found him, bring me word so that I may go and pay him homage." When they heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they'd seen at its rising till it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down to pay him homage. And then opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. May God bless all these words to our living. Unfortunately, we are tired by Epiphany. We are starting to take down our decor, if we haven't done that already at home. The store shelves have been cleaned out, and the people that work there are so glad to see all that glitter gone. After worship, well, I'll just put it on the recording. My sister calls glitter the herpes of Christmas, just to let you know. Just had to share that with you all. So, and I know I've talked to numerous people, especially that work in the craft store, that they're like, we just can't wait till January, so we stop going home covered, you know. Our poinsettias get a little ragged, don't they? I touched mine in my office this morning, and it gifted me with 3 leaves in my hand. And we won't even talk about the needles if you are brave enough to have a real tree in your house. We are at, or almost at, Epiphany. January 6th is when we arrive there. And this is, in this time of Christmastide, our final story in this. These are our stories, our myths, really, of meaning. Stories that help us shape the meaning of our lives, our own lives, and our lives together. And it was at over 300 years after Jesus' death, as I told the kids, that's when Epiphany was instituted. And traditionally, we call Epiphany the visit of the 3 wise men, or the Magi. In the Eastern church, the Eastern Orthodox church, for them, Epiphany is the baptism of Christ, which is what we have next week. So they fought about everything, it seems, the Eastern and the Western churches. So they always, on different calendars and everything. But for the 3 Magi, it represented the manifestation of Christ to the Gentiles. I don't think I heard that much Usually in church, like by the time you get to Epiphany, we kind of smush them all into, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day anyway. People are kind of done, like, aren't we done yet? I always think at every church I've ever been at, it's the people who clean and things like that are like, really, can we get rid of this stuff yet? But we are in seasons, the season of Advent. And then on Christmas Day starts this season of Christmastide that ends in Epiphany. We've lost that meaning of that, the manifestation, the showing to the Gentiles, because we don't use those words much, do we? They pop up in our New Testament, the Jews and the Gentiles. Often it depends on the writer, but you're almost supposed to say Gentile with a little contempt, with that little sneer in your face and stuff. And there's so much to talk about in this story. Every time I read it now, especially at the age I am and the 30 plus years I've been a minister, how many different things appear out of this story. You can talk about the star, you can talk about the gifts, you can talk about the camel if you want to. You can talk about their names, you can talk about their journey. We have a simple phrase that came up years ago: wise ones still seek him. That's often what gets reduced to, especially on Christmas cards. But this story is both radical and universal, especially with that original meaning, that this was an appearance to the Gentiles, that it wasn't just a story of one group of people, that it wasn't just one tribe's story. It was meant for everyone. It's not representative of just one group either, that Christ is present for all. And I'm being very careful to use the word Christ. We spent all of Advent defining Christ as the meeting of the spiritual and the material, so that it's not a definition that's just for us, those who stand in these stories of Jesus, but it is for everyone. It's a name used at Advent and Christmas, another word that means this same thing that we often go over. It's in a few of our Advent carols, but we don't use it much. And that's the word Emmanuel, which again, doesn't refer to Jesus. It means God is with us. It's a statement. It's actually a statement of faith more than a name. When we make it just a name, we take all the power out of it. It is something that we say as a statement of faith. God is with us, not just in one person at one place in time, but everywhere for everyone. And as Christians, we come to that statement through the stories of Jesus and his followers and the Jewish tradition that Jesus stood in also. But Emmanuel, truly, God is with us, can be and is proclaimed by anyone. If we think of our Muslim siblings, they say, and I can never say it, but it's Allah is one. That's their greeting. That's your basic statement of faith, that anyone who even, just at all identifies with that says that. That's our Emmanuel. It's the same thing. And it's a bit presumptuous, I think, to think that the Gentiles didn't get that oneness until these stories of Jesus. But it is also unfortunate what we've done with that idea, that often, probably since the beginning of time, and we have some story, or the beginning of the Christian story, that it's been used as an insider and outsider thing. The Jews were ostracizing Jesus and his followers and the crucifixion is, part of that story, of course. But remember also Paul, when he was Saul, his job that he took on was to find Christians and imprison them and kill them. He was breathing hatred, is some of the translation of what he was doing. And we continue to do that in so many ways. By first, the insistence that the United States is a Christian country. A country actually can't be Christian. People are that. A country, land with borders cannot acknowledge a certain faith or belief. Only people do. And Jesus wasn't here to kingdom build. You know, we've changed that too. We don't use the word kingdom. Every time I see it, I change it for us. It's kingdom. No, Jesus was here to kingdom build. Oh yeah. To pull us all together. Oh yes. But the common use of the word epiphany now means to understand, and often to have a sudden understanding, something that comes to you. And I think that's interesting that they call that epiphany, especially this long journey that they say the wise men took, and T.S. Eliot talking about that long and hard journey. What was the epiphany? Maybe it was seeing this little one and saying, oh, this is going to be a different story. This is going to be something that they needed. Not just that something that they understood because they were knowledgeable people who understood how the stars moved and the stories that had been given the stars. They had a whole new story. Even more shocking was that their minds were changed. That they did not go back to the king. That did you see, they didn't get their dream or their angel until after. The shepherds got it beforehand. Mary got it beforehand. Joseph got it beforehand. The poor Gentile guys, they had to wait till after they saw the baby, right? Till they got their dream that said to go home a different way. But they got the story. It wasn't just meant for a certain group at a certain time in a certain way. And this, I think, especially at the beginning of our new year, is a great thing for us to hear as people of faith, as just people, as an exercise for the new year, to get out of our tribal ways, to get out of our ways of saying this is for some or not for others, or identifying and sticking with that. Of that practice that we have as people of faith, including anyone and everyone. And instead of saying, you must hear our story, we say, we have stories, but we want to hear your story. And we want to hear your take on our stories. That is actually my favorite thing to do, and we'll keep doing it. I love to hear children do that too. After they've heard a Bible story read to them, what I love to do is say, okay, now you tell me your version. Tell me that story back. And I remember when I was in seminary, we had to do that all the time because my Hebrew professor would say, show me where that is in the story. He'd keep doing that when I tell stories back. No, show me where that is in the story. And of course I couldn't show him because that story had already entered me. Where it is in the story is it's me at the intersection of this story, and can't we just hear those stories together? That's what we need to do. I like as much hearing the other scriptures and people telling me their stories from their scripture, because I will learn as much from those. Because that includes everyone. The wise men remind us that everyone is included. We have celebrations to make important things easier to remember. That's why we do all this, to make it easier to remember, to be mindful of something. That's what a memory, that's where that word comes for when we memorialize. That's all for mindful and memory, is that. And at the start of this new year, what does this story ask us to be mindful of? I do think one of the many things it is to be mindful how we need to include everyone and how tribal we can be. We have the right story to do this. The problem is, the bad news is right now, is that it is going to get worse this year before it gets better. We are in an election year. I swear, since the last one 2 years ago, they couldn't wait to say, we are now officially in an election year, even though it's not till November, right? But it will be about political parties. We are also in a COVID time, so it's about vaxxed and not vaxxed. Tribalism has some really good reasons for its existence. Good tribes we need because we can't survive alone. We as humans are not made to survive alone. There is safety in numbers. We care for each other mutually, not just when we're old and young, but we have division of labor. We always have, because you can only do things together. The problem is that we think tribes are right and wrong. And we've set ourselves up for those kind of things. Even though it's so interesting, do you hear every once in a while when some archaeologists discover something or they do more DNA tests on something they found and they're like, gee, it looks like these people and these people at some point commingled because we can see their genetic material together. We didn't think that they were traveling that far or going that, place. And I'm just like, yeah, our assumptions that people are separate and stay away from each other are absolutely wrong. And we took tribalism and we went bad with it. It became class. And then it became teams and political parties, and all those things. And right and wrong entered in. And we stopped thinking about the similarities that we all have and thought about how we can be different than others. Herod in our story today represents the bad side of tribalism. He lives in a world where only one can be in power, and everybody's trying to topple that one. Power is limited and death to all others. But that's not the way of our stories. We are not about kill all enemies. And we as people of faith have abused the stories of Jesus. And today, as we sit down at the table, we have to remember that Jesus is always including, that he's always looking for those who are not included. Remember, this is the person who sat down with the guy that sold him for 40 pieces of silver. Wouldn't any smart leader ask them to be out of the room? Jesus did not. Who do we need to sit down with? How do we need to change our actions so that we see the world as God does? Not as and I want us to be very careful of this, especially as first world people. We are not about how everybody needs to be included with us, as if we are the power that lets people in. The question for us is, how are we putting up barriers that make an inside and an outside? And that's different, because you come off very paternal when, I'm going to let you in. No. I'm going to admit how I create barriers. The song we're going to sing in preparation for communion sounds like a little bit of a dirge and a little bit of a downer, but that's what we do when we come to communion. We come and say, what barriers have we put up to God present in this world, and how do we need to take those down? The wise men could have been either not let in because they were too good, or they didn't, this is not the place you're supposed to be, right? Or they could have said, we're not going in there. We know how to get into a palace. Why would we go in there? But instead, that long journey, as T.S. Eliot, has for us, or something about them, God present with them, even before the Epiphany, they knew that they were already in that stable before they even left their warm palaces. What barriers do we need to take down? What are the ways that we make tribes, that we put up litmus tests, that we do things and say they can be part of our story when they're more like us? How do we do that in our own lives? How are we part of structures and institutions that do that? Even here, I think I get asked every once in a while, why don't the guys from Courage House come over here? And one of the guys said something to me once about that. I said, we're here Sunday morning, come on over. He goes, you guys are too good for us. I said, no, we're not. He said, I don't even know how to dress to go to your church. And I looked at him, I said, well, you're covered. That should be good enough. But you can see there's expectations there. There's something that was put up. There's a building that's kept very nice that when you walk in, we hold a history here. There's even me who doesn't show up in jeans on Sunday morning. I don't particularly like jeans. That's my problem. But it's asking questions like that, even the funny ones like that really get at the issue. What is keeping us from tearing down the barriers that make us realize that this isn't about groups or tribes or in or out, that it's about God is with us. Let that be our epiphany. Let's pray. Loving God, the stories of Jesus that we have are funny when you look at them. Of men in camels with finery and probably with what they were wearing was worth more than Joseph would make in his entire lifetime. And they come and they kneel. Stories of Jesus where he goes to the blind and the sick and the female and touches them. Breaks all the rules. God, let us live like that. Let that be what we make manifest. May we tear down all that keeps us from you present in all that is around us. All this we ask in your name. Amen. And let's prepare for communion together. If you're able, please stand and let's sing together, These I Lay Down.
Before I take the body of my Lord, before I share his life in bread and wine, I recognize the sorry things within. These I lay down. The words of hope I often fail to give, the prayers of kindness buried by my pride, the signs of care I argued out of sight. These I lay down. The narrowness of vision and of mind,
may be seated. Oh, thank you for bringing them back. Yay. Do you guys all have bread? Or gluten-free? Okay, you got? All right. We don't know which hands laid this bread down in front of Jesus. Who was serving that day? Who made it and maybe brought it or bought it at a shop? We don't know. We do know the hands that picked it up, though, at the beginning, when they'd all come together. When Judas was there and they were all there, Peter, and the ones who had told Jesus to be quiet, the ones who were scared for their own lives, the ones who were still trying to figure everything out, the ones who had heard the rumors, the ones who knew what Judas had done. But then the hands of Jesus picked it up and broke it and said, "This is my body, and I'm breaking it for you." Every time you take your body out into this world, break it open and remember. And then after they had supped, he took the cup and he said, "This is a promise. This is a blessing. This is my very life and blood poured out for you. Every time you get thirsty and get something to drink, remember me. Every time you take your very life force into this world and give it, pour yourself out and remember me." And so we come with these bodies, with our spirits, with the meeting of both as Christ present here. And we offer to the world, broken and poured out, just how they were asked for. This bread has been gathered from many fields into one loaf. The grain doesn't disappear. It helps to become something new that can be shared. As we gather together and eat, we don't disappear. We become transformed so that we can share God's love. Let us eat together. I did sanitize my hands. Loving God, hear our prayers. Amen. Do you know the chorus of the hymn that Eric was playing? Grace, grace, God's grace, grace that is greater than all our sins. Great thing during communion. Thank you. These grapes, as I say every month when we do this, and I'm going to do it until we have a just world. Grapes have been picked by hands that are not ours, that have been told they are not legal, that don't always get paid what they were promised. They've picked these grapes and we benefit. Now as we drink, may we go with the power to make this a just world where that happens no longer. Loving God, as we have laid down what keeps us from you and each other, and have picked up not only this bread and this juice, but your grace once again. God, create in us lives of your love. All this we ask in your name. Amen. And as we have received the gifts of this earth, bye kids, we also have the opportunity to remember that we are people of giving also. And so the instructions are in the bulletin on how to do that. We've chosen still not to pass the offering plates in this time of COVID, but as our gifts that we give together, then we can break ourselves open and pour ourselves out in this world of God's peace. Let's sing together. Gracious God, for the gifts that we remember on this day, gifts that were brought, gold and frankincense and myrrh, that were not only valuable, but teach us of a time that is yet to come. God, may we bring all that is valuable in our lives, all that we don't even realize is valuable in our lives, but that you know. May we offer it to you and to this world, so that your love may be known. All this we ask in your name. Amen. You may be seated if you're standing. And let's join together in this New Year's blessing by John O'Donohue. We lost him way too early a number of years ago, but he has a book of blessings that keep coming back as needed again and again. So if you will join in the bold type. On the day when the weight deadens on your shoulders and you stumble, may the clay dance to balance you.
And when our eyes freeze behind the gray window and the ghost of loss gets into us, may a flock of colors, indigo, red, green, and azure blue, come to awaken us, a meadow of delight.
When the canvas frays and the currach of thought and a stain of ocean blackens beneath you, may there come across the waters a path of yellow moonlight to bring you safely home.
May the nourishment of the earth be ours. May the clarity of light be ours. May the fluency of the ocean be ours. May the protection of the ancestors be ours.
And so may a slow wind work these words of love around you, an invisible cloak to mind your life. Gracious God, as we begin this new year, as we think of the challenge of this story of Epiphany in this new year, we come before you. We know that there is no place that we can be that is out of your presence, and we are thankful that we can gather together in these amazing ways that we do, and that we can speak words, that we can be in silence, that we can know you in ways that we did not expect. God, we are in this new year, and this year and all years are yours. Give us your love. May that be the power that we seek in our days ahead. And God, as we begin this year, we also think of some that we have lost recently. We honor the life and the laughter of Bishop Tutu. We thank you for the ways that he was brave, especially in times when he was told he was nothing. We thank you for his insistence on truth and reconciliation, for his unapologetic tears, and for his speaking truth to power. We thank you for the ways that he walked with you and taught us to be your people, fully human and delightful. We think this morning too of our siblings that endured that tornado before Christmas that swept through so many towns and states. Their loss is real and continues to get real every day to them. For those who gave up their Christmas time with family so they could be there, serving food, helping people find places to live, just listening to their stories and witnessing their tears. God, we are thankful. Our time will come when we need to be those people. It may be in small ways right where we are now. God, let us not shrink back. Let us remember that we are here as your people in love. We pray this morning for our siblings in Colorado whose houses suddenly were destroyed by fire. God, be with them too as they live into this new reality. And as we together as a people in this country give so that they can rebuild. God, may we not just wait for disasters, but may we find ways to be part of rebuilding lives each and every day. For the ways that we do it now, God, we're thankful and amazed that we get to do that. For the ways that will come to us in this next year, God, may our hearts be open wherever we are. For all the ways, God, that you will call us to tear down boundaries and barriers, to see the world as you do. God, let us step forward in that work. For the ways that we will need to do that because of our choices have impacted the climate so much that more tornadoes and floods and fires will come and will come to us. God, let us work together, for there is enough for all when all care for each other. Send us, God, with stories of love, with journeys that teach us. And hear us now. Teach us through this prayer. Eternal Spirit, earth maker, pain bearer, life giver, source of all that is and that shall be, parent of us all, loving God, in whom is heaven. The hallowing of your name echo through the universe. The way of your justice be followed by the peoples of the world. Your heavenly will be done by all created beings. Your commonwealth of peace and freedom sustain our hope and come on earth. With the we need for today, feed us. In the hurts we absorb from one another, forgive us. In times of temptation and tests, strengthen us. From trials too great to endure, spare us. From the grip of all that is evil, free us. For you reign in the glory of the power that is love, now and forever. Amen. And if you're able, please stand and let's sing together, We Three Kings.
We three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse afar. Field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. Oh, star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect
This
light.
side of the church on this verse.
Born a king on Bethlehem's plain, gold and ring to crown him again. King forever, ceasing never, over us all.
And everyone on the chorus.
Oh, star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.
This side and Zoom.
Frankincense to offer have I, incense tones of deity nigh, prayer and praising voices raising, worshiping God on high. Oh, star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.
Now the hidden choir.
Myrrh is mine, its bitter perfume breathes the life of gathering bloom. Soaring, sighing, bleeding, dying, till it makes walls of one. Oh, star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. Glorious now, behold him arise, Christ and God and sacrifice. Hallelujah, hallelujah, steps of the earth and skies. Oh, star of wonder, star of light, star with royal beauty bright, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light.
As we go together with voices joined and hearts together, may we take down what keeps us from one another, and may God's peace be with us now and always. Amen.